Hey my friends, I'm back doing another video, and this one is on Galinsoga parviflora, which is quickweed, also known as gallant soldier. This plant here is actually the second favorite wild edible that I absolutely like. It tastes really amazing. So here we go, we're going to get into it, and I just found some seeds and I wanted to show you these seeds real quick. Look how small they are. So now we're going to get into it. Let's put these there. So quickweed is antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, has antiviral activity. They will flower from May to October. It's an annual herb. It's hermaphrodite. So it's a wonderful wild edible, great herb, great edible. It's a plant related to the sunflowers, and it's native to Central America. It's also pollinated by insects. It's amazing, huh? So also it's very invasive. When I mean invasive, it is very invasive. I'm going to show you in a moment here how invasive it really is. And I was going to do this last year, but I waited to this year because I got so darn busy. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to do this video because this is one of the second, third best wild edible that I absolutely love to eat. You can eat this raw, cooked, steamed, soups, salads, any way that you feel you want to cook it. Like I said, it's very invasive and disruptive edible, but that can take over your gardens, just like lamb's quarters, Chenopodium album. I love lamb's quarters, absolutely one of my favorite wild edibles to eat. It can smother out your produce very quickly, hence that's why it's called quickweed, because it grows very fast. You can pull them out. If you pull these out before they go to flower, which these have already gone to flower, as you can see. The flowers are really tiny. So you can see compared to my finger how small they are. And it's the best time to eat them as an edible, but they can be eaten like any time. You know, like here's one that is not in flower yet. Like if they're little like this and not even any flowers on them, they're really tender, but I don't care. I think they taste great with or without the flowers. It doesn't matter to me. I'll eat them. I don't care how big they are. And I'll tell you why some people don't really like them when they get to be flowery and too many flowers on them. They get hairy. As they mature, they get like these little hairs on them, and some people just don't care for the texture. And after they flower, they'll drop their seeds, which I just showed you the seeds. And if you compost them and use that compost to start your plants with, you're most likely going to be growing a lot of quickweed everywhere. So I use a drive cloth, and they will still find their way to grow. They're little resilient fellas. And as soon as they drop their seeds, they'll start another batch, and they'll grow all summer long. So remember, this is free food, folks. We're in hard times. We need to know what we can eat just on quickly and eat on the run if we needed to grab food. There's really no lookalikes, but I did read also that Galinsoga, but however, the Canadian clearweed can look like quickweed. So if you want to look up Canadian clearweed, just to make sure, I mean, it's not poisonous, but if you want to make sure you have the right plant, just look them both up and see what they look like. So you want to watch them grow so that you can see what they look like, and study the plant before you eat it. You want to study the plant before you eat any wild edible. That's why I do these classes and I do these videos, so people can really do a hands-on and see things. So I've had many years of training, so I know the weeds all too well. And also being a farmer, I have, organic produce farm. I see them daily. Sometimes they're just like, okay, I know you're here. I'm busy. I'm not going to pick you right yet. So when you're harvesting, let's get into this one. When you're harvesting, this yummy stuff, with most edibles and medicinals, everything's in timing. And there's always a window for everything, like harvesting for the best flavor. And with Galinsoga quickweed, you harvest before the flower stalks start to form. You pick the young growing tips. You can eat it at any stage, but the plants with the flowers can be too old for cooking as a leafy green, and it will have tough stems, and I'm going to show you. So if I pick this, get really close, you can see those little hairs. Dirt also clings to them. You just want to make sure you wash them. You can even see a little bit of dirt on them because it's been raining really heavy here. So you want to wash them really good. I soak them in a bowl of water and I let them sit for a few minutes. Like if there's any bugs or anything on them, the bugs will, you know, eventually come off. Here's the seeds already forming. So those seeds are just going to fall off in my gardens and they'll just start growing again, and they grow very fast. That's why it's called quickweed. Look at the petals. Sunflower family. What else does this remind you of? Chamomile? Absolutely. Some people will say that's chamomile. It's not chamomile. Also, these are edible raw or in smoothies. If you throw them in your smoothies, you're going to see why I say just throw them in your smoothies, because you're going to get a lot of health benefits from it also. So you can throw a handful of these in every day to your smoothies or your stir fry or whatever you really want to, you know, put it in. Soup, stew, stir fries. The slightly furry texture is removed when you cook it or steam it. I love steaming them. And also the stinging is removed from nettles the same way as you're cooking it. It tastes similar to the dandelion greens or sunflowers. And you can dry this. If you take a bunch of this and just put it in your dehydrator, of course it's going to shrink down to barely nothing. You can garble or, you know, rub between your hands, you know, to get the stalks that are woody-ish type of fiber-ish out, and then you're left with a nice little powder. And it's good for flavoring soups, pestos, stews, etc. Has a unique flavor, and this is sold as a dried herb known as, I'm going to botch this word, it's Guascas, guascas, for soups and stews. You can harvest lots of this because it's everywhere and it just takes over everything. So you just want to dehydrate it on low heat, crush it up, store it for dishes as a spice, and you just discard the stems and any other tough pieces. It's called the Galinsoga as an annual, and the herb from the Asteraceae family. Fresh leaves and juice have been used in folk medicine throughout the world to treat disorders of eczema, non-healing bleeding wounds, and I think that's another reason why they call it Galinsoga, because it helps with bleeding wounds real quick. It helps coagulate. It helps with common cold, flus, cold sores. It's high in vitamin C. It protects you against UV radiation damage. That's pretty heavy. So they have made essential oils with this, and it inhibits the growth of Staphylococcus, a bacteria that causes disease, and Bacillus cereus, which is an aerobic spore forming bacterium that is commonly found in soil, on the vegetables, and many other raw and processed foods. Causes food poisoning. So it supports acceleration of wound closures, hence that's the name Galinsoga. Stimulates collagen, and it's high in quercetin, and so is nettles. Nettles is high in quercetin. It helps with allergies. So this little beauty, even though it's so invasive, it has so many uses as a medicinal and a wild edible. I call them survival foods. So, you know, you can rub this on stinging nettles. So, so you want to take this and you can crush it right up. And you can even chew it up. And as I'm doing this, the juice can be applied to a wound. So if you keep doing that, you see the juices starting to come out. It can help coagulate the blood of fresh cuts and wounds. So as you keep doing that, you're going to end up getting some juices out of there, and you just rub it right on. has mangled the poor guy. So the leaves, the stems, the flowering shoots, raw, cooked or juiced. Cook them for 10 minutes to reduce the hairiness. I like to steam them. That does the same thing. They shrink down like spinach, so you want to pick a whole lot of it. You steam the tender leaves, like I just said. I like to stir fry my stuff with garlic and ginger. And I think today I might do some, maybe some mushroom in there and make a little bit of a dish. I don't normally do that because I like to really just teach the wild edibles the way they are. Be like, this is a survival food. This is how you would do it in the woods. And people get a little confused if you start adding all this other crazy stuff to it and thinking that's the way they have to cook it. But you don't. You can eat it raw. So you can make this in soups, pestos, raviolis, risotto, lasagna, anything. If you're making spaghetti sauce, you throw these right in and cook them in. I would steam them first and then throw them right in your sauces afterwards. So I'm going to show you a few things here, and then I've got my basket all ready to pick a whole bunch. So even though they're really big like this, I'm still going to pick them and I'm still going to cook them because they're very good no matter how big they are. I don't care what anybody else says. They have these little hairiness about them, but like I said, that'll be gone once it's steamed. And remember the petals, these are the little flower petals. They're divided. See how they're divided? They're not full. That's how you can tell that this is quickweed. So another thing is, see the quickweed growing down here? That's how fast they grow. These are all baby quickweed. Little baby quickweeds. So in a few days, these guys are going to get really big. So if you look in here, here's some more little baby ones. I know what they look like because I watch them grow all the time. Some people pick them at this stage where they're really small. They still have a little flower starting to come out. They're a little more tender, but I don't know. I think they taste the same whether they're big or small. It doesn't matter to me. So here we are. There's a whole row of them. So I left them here purposely. And so I have dried cloth down, but some dirt gets on a dried cloth and that's all it takes. They don't care. They're resilient. They came up in between my cloth because the wind had moved my cloth. Food, folks. Free food at that. So let's take a look at it one more time so you can get a really good idea. I'll have a lot of pictures. Quickweed. 5 petals. I don't think I've ever seen any more than 5 petals on these guys. If you do, well, little misfits. I can't focus any more than that. Let's see if I can focus in a little bit more so I can get closer. There we go. There. Now you can really see the hairs. Look at that. They don't bother me. They won't bother you. They don't cause you to, have allergic reactions. Once you cook them, I could eat this whole thing right now and just throw it in my mouth and chew it up. It's not going to do anything. Some people just don't like the texture. And you want to wash them because I said, the rain will throw up its dirt and they'll stick to it because they have these little fine hairs in them. Farmers hate these. These will take over cornfields fast, real fast. And so the problem is, if they are tilling them in, what happens if you till it in? They'll just grow back because that's how they are. They're just, it's a staple food. And it's also medicinal. All right, folks, that's it for this part. We're going to go in the kitchen and we're going to cook it up and we're going to make some dishes and show you how to eat it. And it's so yummy. And that's going to be my dinner for tonight. So quickweed, I'm probably going to have it on some quinoa. You can have it on rice. You can make a nice sauce with it. Pour it over whatever dish you want. Remember, it's got some protein. Got a lot of good stuff in there. So let me show you some seeds again. Let's see if I can find some seeds. Here's some seeds. Doesn't take long for them to turn to seed either. See, they're already starting to seed. Here's your seeds. Look at those seeds. And oh, they make about 7,000 or more seeds per plant. That is just crazy. So there's your seeds, folks. Do not grow this in your gardens. You don't have to grow it in your gardens. It'll show up voluntarily. All right, we'll see you in the kitchen. Get your appetite on and we'll be cooking some food. Also, you can find me on Rumble. We're on the Grassroot Warriors Network. Look for Vermont Pure Herbs. My videos should pop right up on Grassroot Warriors Network on Rumble. And also, I'm on my YouTube channel is Vermont Pure Herbs, and my website is vermontpureherbs.com. Anywhere you're going to put Vermont Pure Herbs, I'll pop up. You'll see me on Facebook, Instagram, Telegram. All right, folks. Enjoy. Peace. Hey, my friends. I'm back, and we're doing the second part of the video for the Galinsoga parviflora. And this is also quickweed, also known as gallant soldier. So I've learned not to preheat my stove and have my cast iron pan get extremely hot. So I'm going to show you what I have going on here. So far we have, oh, and just in case you forget what they look like, this is the quickweed. This is what we're talking about. These little guys. Gals, girls, guys. Remember, hermaphrodite, so it's both. This is what we're cooking. So what I did was I washed them to make sure there was no dirt on them, brought them in. And this pot here is, I chopped them up and I steamed them. And I'm going to show you what the steam is. While this is heating up, we'll talk about that for a moment. So in here we have the steam. I prepped them. See how they shrink right down to nothing? So that is the quickweed already steamed up. And then we have this here is going to be, I've already pre-cooked some ahead of time. So I'm going to dump my ginger, my garlic scapes from my garden in here. We're going to cook these up a little, like I always do in all my videos. In case you haven't seen any of my other videos, this is kind of like how I like to cook my wild edibles. This is ginger from my gardens, last year's gardens actually. I freeze a lot of my gingers to do my wild edibles. And today I'm going to add in, and I don't normally do this, but if you were out in the woods and you found mushrooms, let me turn this down. You could definitely throw your mushrooms in here and have, a mushroom dish as well. So we're going to add mushroom in with this just to give it a little more flavor. You don't have to do that. I'm just doing it because I had some mushrooms I wanted to use up, so I figured, I'll just throw those in there and make a mushroom dish. Remember, mushrooms will shrink as well, and so this just gives it a nice little flavor, little texture. We're gonna do our water trick. Always use water for steam. Just make sure this pan isn't too hot because it'll spit out all over you. Always be careful. Some people use a lid, put a lid over it. I want you to see it. I don't want to cover it. I think I kind of fixed my stove a little bit. It's not leaning so much to one side. All my everything was going to one end on my last video. So I just turned that down, and I'm going to show you also that I made some quinoa ahead of time. If you've never seen quinoa, this is quinoa. You can use rice, you can use whatever you want. Today I'm getting a little fancy because I'm going to eat this for my dinner. So we're going to cook this up. You don't need salt, you don't need pepper, you don't need any of that fancy stuff. You can if you want. The ginger and the garlic gives it plenty of flavor. So just remember, when you're in the woods, if you don't know the mushrooms, don't pick them. They say most of the mushrooms on the trees, or basically all mushrooms on trees, are edible. You don't really know that because there could be new mushrooms that grow every year with, you know, spores. Go with someone that's trained. I know some of the mushrooms. I don't know all the mushrooms. I know probably 10. I'm more of the wild edibles. I mean, mushrooms are wild edible, but you know what I'm saying. So this doesn't take too long. I like to make my ginger, it's still hard, so I like the ginger to be soft. You can chop up the ginger even more. They have a little garlic grater. You can put your ginger in and do that. I just didn't have time to do it. I just felt like I just chopped it up plenty. It gets soft enough. So the reason why I pre-steamed this is if you just try to throw it in and cook it like that, it just comes out kind of papery. It's better to steam them. And I'll show you, I did some up ahead of time. So this is what happens when you just throw them into your coconut oil. They kind of won't come out like a spinach. They'll be crunchy. Hear it? Oh, let me see. Yeah, it's like crunchy. And it's good. This is really good. I'm going to throw this right on top of it when it's finished because it's crunchy. It has a really nice flavor. I'm not going to wipe it off. It has a really nice flavor, so I'm just going to throw it on top of the dish when it's finished. I need more water. Water definitely soaks up, or the mushrooms and everything soaks up the water, and I want this to be kind of like a soupy, so I can have it as a sauce to put over the dish. So as we're cooking this up here, I was going to show you something real quick. On the other side over here, I'm going to switch it around. So when you take these, let's go around here. When you take the quickweed, we're going to put it over here in the middle so you can all see what's going on. There we go. Turn this back down. I was playing with the heat. So what I do is I just kind of wash them up and then chop them small and then steam them. Just because if they're tough, it's easier if they're smaller when they're steamed. And I'll show you the steam part when it's all finished, because it'll look really nice. So another reason why I chop all this up, because it can get tough and you don't want long pieces, you want smaller bites. And you know, you can do that with all your stuff. You can do it with the chenopodium, you can do it with the nettles, chop them up, make them easier to chew. And then I take it, and I have a dehydrator, so I've started some already. And so I'm gonna actually dehydrate some of these, and then I put them on my dehydrator sheet. And then when they're dry, this is the spice I was telling you about. And then you can grind it up in your little coffee grinder, or wherever you wanna grind it up, whatever you have for a grinder. And then that one's gonna go on these two are gonna go on the dehydrator. And so I'll have some of this to sprinkle on my food to make a nice spice, seasoning, soups, whatever you're making. I'm making a mess. So that's all for that. That's pretty simple. I think the washing just takes the most, cutting and washing and everything else. I'll throw it in my dehydrator. Don't put it in your dehydrator on high heat. 115 is plenty, because these will dry like so fast. Like in a couple of hours or so, these guys will be dried. If you don't have a dehydrator, you can always put it on the lowest setting in your stove, which is probably around 115. I'm not sure. I don't use my stove. I only use the top of the oven. I'm sorry. I don't use my oven, so I wouldn't know. But you can, if you have a toaster oven, you can do it on a toaster in a toaster oven on the lowest setting. Just don't burn them. If you burn them, you're just losing all the properties. You'll have nothing left. It will be yucky. Won't even taste good. So let's go back to here. Just wanted to show you that real quick while this is cooking. And these are getting really soft. So you see that water, really, you want a nice little sauce in there anyways. You don't want it dry. These probably have a couple more minutes. So as you take and you dry, I wish I had some dried right now, but you dry it in your dehydrator or your stove or your toaster oven on low heat. Then you can take it out, and it's crunchy, it's very dry, and you can take your hands and do this with it to take off anything that might be, you know, like stalks that are, you know, woody, and pull those out. Or you could take a, I'll show you. You take one of these, mesh, and put it through the mesh and do this, and it'll shake out any of the bigger pieces that just won't grind up. And then you're left with a really nice powder that you can use on your cooking, your salads, your meat, anything that you're, anything that you're gonna make as a wild edible, or any dishes, lasagna, spaghetti. It's kind of endless. Just think of it as a nice spice. If you like the taste of the spice, if you don't like it, then don't use it that way. But most people don't mind having it that way. So I'm going to take this out now, and I'm just going to add it right to this. Remember, this is free food. If you found mushrooms in the woods, you could do that. You could find some, I know, I always usually find some wild ginger. Wild ginger is great. Oh, wild ginger is really strong too. You don't need much of it. So I would put wild ginger in with this. Leeks. It's pretty easy to find leeks. I'd put leeks in with this. I'd put, what else would I put in with this? I don't know. I always think of things later on. I'm like, oh, I should have said that. So this is kind of like a mushroom type, it looks like spinach, but it's not, but it's going to be really yummy. And then I'll just throw it on top of the quinoa when it's finished. I do use, I don't know if I said that, use coconut oil in this. Oh, if you could only smell this. You can smell it? Smell aroma? It smells really good. The mushrooms do give it a nice little flavor too. Without it, it's perfect, just the way, even without it. I've cooked it by itself with just a little coconut oil, and it came out really nice. Sometimes I snack on them in the greenhouse. I'll see a couple of them and I'll just pop them in my mouth and like, oh, these are pretty good. And then I totally forget. I'm like, oh yeah, I should make some of that, cook some of that up. I'm too busy picking them because there's so much of it. If I didn't have drive cloth in my houses, I would pull my hair out. I did it. My first time I ever farmed. Oh, I learned real fast. I'm not pulling weeds. I'm too busy growing food than picking weeds. But most of the weeds that I pick are edible anyways. We seem to forget that this world provides everything we need. So the minerals, the iron, the, everything that is involved in the quickweed is beneficial for you. Remember, it's antibacterial, antifungal, has antiviral properties. And you can pick this from May to October until the ground starts to freeze, and then they'll die off. So this is like, you could have this every week. You can make a dish for your family every week. Just don't tell them what it is. Because, we live in a society where we're so afraid to go outside and even walk in grass barefoot. You got to get out and ground yourself. This is a great way to ground yourself with these plants. I mean, they're here for us. They're here to provide for us, and we just need to learn more. This is our staple foods, our wild edibles. This is a gift. This food's a gift. In the hard times that we're in right now, we definitely need to know this food. We need to know how to eat it or cook it and eat it. We need to know what parts. what stages. Everything's in timing when you're just like growing produce. Everything's in timing. Same as these plants. You just think of this as going to your grocery store in your backyard. We are conditioned to believe that everything and anything that we eat today has to come from a store in a box or a can or in a bag. I buy lettuce from the store. I buy cucumbers from the store because we live in colder climate. In the wintertime, we can't actually go and, grow our stuff outside. So if I had to, I'd probably grow things in my basement because I know how to do it. But we're living in times right now where we're all being forced to learn. I've been doing this for 27 years, so I've been interested in that in my early 20s. I learned real fast what this world has to offer. So this is done. You could add a little more water, make it a little softer, but to me this looks perfect. And I'm going to grab my quinoa and I'm going to, we'll dish this up and then I'll show you what it looks like because it looks so yummy. And it's filling. Just like the pigweed is very filling. You don't need much of it. I made some for my sister. I made her a dish one night and she really liked it. I was shocked. So there she is. She. Let's turn it around so you can see this wonderful dish. And we have, there she is. We have your quickweed. Kind of looks like all of the dishes I make. There's your Galinsoga, parviflora. Galinsoga, parviflora. When we were in class, my teacher would sing the Latin names to us, and we'd walk through the woods and sing all the Latin names, and that's how we learned them. We made songs out of them, and that's how we would learn. She's passed on now, her and my teacher, George Lisi and Annie McClearly, one of my greatest teachers of all. So, let me get this a little closer. How's that look, folks? Now let me get a nice big spoon. Let me get my spoon out so I can show you with the quinoa. With the quinoa, it looks yummy. So, don't forget, get out there and learn your herbs. Even if you just learn one, or wild edible, one a year, even just dandelion. Learn how to eat your dandelions. Learn how to, survival foods. And I'll tell you, I think and I believe with the chenopodium, which is the pigweed, and this is the quickweed, pigweed. I believe that women would can these back in the day when they were doing canning. Well, we should still be doing canning. And they would can this and they would have it for the winter to live on. So you could do this. This is an abundance. And, I've been watching other people talking because, this time of the year, everybody's out there, showing you their stuff and they're learning, which is wonderful. I love it. And they're telling people that this is so invasive and, giving really bad backlash, talking really nasty about wild edibles. Yes, it's invasive. I think the reason why things are very invasive is because it's needed. Plants are in our vibration. We need to pay attention to them. They're here for a reason. So utilize them, eat them, use them. Don't keep picking all the fiddleheads because we'll have nothing left. If you're going to have a few for your family, that's great. And I understand people need money. But there's other ways to, utilize and make money than going out and picking all of our wild staple foods for money. It takes a long time for your leeks to grow. It takes 7 years for a leek bulb to grow. So just pick off the leaves and leave the bulb. If you want one bulb, take one bulb for your family. And then if you find seeds, plant more. So, be wise. Harvest, ethical standards, and give thanks and always say thank you to the universe and the earth for providing all this food for us. So I'm going to sign off now, and I just want you all to, if you have any other questions, you can always send me a message. I'll try to answer them the best I can. I'm a holistic practitioner. I'm a master herbalist. I've been doing this for a very long time. And my YouTube channel is Vermont Pure Herbs. I'm on the Grassroot Warriors Network on Rumble. Just look for, just punching Vermont Pure Herbs when you're on Rumble. Well, you gotta look for Grassroot Warriors Network and then put in Vermont Pure Herbs and my videos should pop up. So you don't have to scroll through 1,000 of them, but there's a lot of content in there. You can watch all the other videos. There's a lot of good things in there. And also my website is brand new. It's vermontpureherbs.com. You can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Telegram. So anywhere you put Vermont Pure Herbs, you should be able to pull me up. So I hope you all enjoy this video. I'll see you on the next one. And stay humble. Go out and look for your weeds, your wild edibles. Cook them, try them, taste them, and give me some feedback and let me know what you think about it. And I'm so excited to be here and to be able to teach you all these fantastic dishes. So I'm going to sign off now, and thank you for being here. Peace. Hey everyone, I am back and finishing this video on the quickweed, the Galinsoga parviflora. So earlier I showed you the wet quickweed and what it looked like on the trays. So we ended up with 2 trays, and by the time it was dried, we ended up with 1 tray. So hear it, how dry it is, how crunchy it is. See the little flowers. The little flowers in there. They still have their little tiny leaves and flowers and everything on them. Their little petals. So they dried really nice. They only took a few hours to dry on 115 in the dehydrator. Not sure what that's equivalent to. If you were going to put it in your stove, I don't want you to burn it. So it's still vibrant and green. So we're going to make a spice, and this is all you do. You can use this like I showed you earlier. You could take this and you could just kind of squish it through. If you didn't have anything motorized, or like a blender. Most people have a blender in their home. It's always good to have like a little coffee grinder so you can make things like this. You can do it with your mints. You can do it with any of your herbs. You can do it with the pigweed, Chenopodium album. So what happens is we're left with, I know this one's gonna show up. I use this all the time. It gets a lot of use. You could take your hands and rub them together like this and do it if you didn't have anything at all. So, you don't really need these tools. You could do this even without the tools. So little flowers, you can push them through because they have a lot of flavor in them too. So this is what you're left with. And this is what I was talking about, is the woodiness, this type of stuff that, nobody wants to chew on that, right? So that stuff you would just compost. Or actually I would throw it in the garbage. You never know if there's a seed in there. You could just throw it in your garbage can. That way it doesn't end up back in your gardens. Believe me, it's not going away anytime soon. So it's here to stay. So this part here you could just throw out. And this is what you're left with, is this nice powder. And if you wanted it even finer, you could put it in your coffee grinder. This tastes really good, I'll tell you. If you've never done this, you really have to try it. So now I'm going to go over and I'm going to show you what it looks like when you do it in the coffee grinder. So you really don't waste this when you do it in a coffee grinder. I'm just showing you different ways of doing it. So see this woody piece here? That definitely, we won't even worry about that. So we'll take this over. I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring you over to the other station. in my house. So here is the coffee grinder. And I use this little coffee grinder for everything. If it burns out on me, well, I'm only $15 out. Can always go buy another one. Let me make sure you can see all this. Just going to shove it right in that little cup. I'd rather use the coffee maker, but you know, if you don't have electricity and you don't have a way to do this, then guess you're doing it like this. You're going to rub it through your hands, and that's how you're going to do it, like that. Well, I'm not going to worry about that little bit of stuff. I'll get it later. I'm making another mess. Okay, so pretty sure you can see. So remember this coffee grinder? I used it to make the dandelion root coffee and the burdock root coffee. Might get loud for a second. This thing grinds up really nice though. See that? And you can have it even a little bit finer. It didn't even take no more than like 10 seconds. So this is what we're left with. Let me see if I can get a bowl. Nice bowl so you can really, really see it. Oh, there's a few big pieces in there, but we didn't grind it very long. So you could go in and just throw it through your grinder again. But here is your powder. And you can take this and you can use this in your cooking. You can use it in your, sprinkle it on top of your salads, you know, your spaghetti, I don't know, put it on whatever you want. Taste it, see how you like it, and then go from there. So this is the end of the video, per se. I'm so happy I was able to do this, and it was dried in time for me to actually show you how to do it. But I'll grind this up a little bit more. And you don't waste much when you use the coffee grinders. But like I said, if you don't have electricity, what are you going to do? You know, you could take it and pound it out in a bag and make it really crunchy and small. You could take your hands and do this with it and then throw away, discard the pieces that are, you know, too woody, or sticks, or pieces that just didn't feel like grinding up. But that's it, folks. I wanted to show you this. I'm excited to be able to show this to you. There's so many different things you can do with this invasive plant. Get out there and pick it. Get out there and make some yummy wild edibles. Teach your kids, because this is a lost art. I mean, like we've just lost our ways with things that we need to be teaching our children. You know, a lot of people just don't understand how important this is. Your backyard is your grocery store, and that should be always your grocery store. Every year you should learn something new, something that you can eat from your backyard, whether you grow it yourself or whether it's a wild edible. So I'm going to sign off now, and I hope you enjoyed this last part of the Galinsoga parviflora. My Latin is so bad, but it's going to be posted so you can see it and you can look it up and you can sing it and learn it. And the English is quickweed. So enjoy, and peace, everyone.